Hey everybody, and welcome to the Full Circle Network. I'm editor-in-chief of FullCircleCinema.com, Jackson Hayes, and today I'm joined by my managing editor, Marcos Melendez.
Hey, what's up, guys? Glad to be here. Really excited to chat about Swamp Thing.
Yep, so as Marcos just mentioned, we're here to review the pilot for Swamp Thing. This is going to be an early review, so no spoilers because no one's seen it yet, and it's releasing the 31st, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
DC Universe, so that's when the first episode for you guys will drop. We had the pleasure of seeing the first one early, so we're here to give you our quick thoughts on it before the series drops next week. To give a little breakdown of what the series is about before we get into it, it follows Swamp Thing follows Dr. Abby Arcane, who's played by Crystal Reed. She returns to her home of Marais, Louisiana, to investigate a swamp virus, a mysterious swamp virus that is plaguing the town. And so we'll start there, Marcos. What were your initial thoughts on the show, and how excited are you for it to move forward?
Initially, I actually wasn't like extremely excited just because I have no clue about anything about Swamp Thing, any of the lore, any of the comic story. All I know is that I believe this is based on Alan Moore's series. It's not based on that. I think there's like an really old movie. It's not based on that at all. But
No,
yeah,
no,
all I
yeah,
knew
yeah.
was that I wasn't even that like excited. But then as like the promos came out, the trailer was really good. So okay, this is promising. And as Super Patrol's ending this week actually, or today when this goes up, there was some. This is like the next DC thing. So in that point, I was like, okay, let's watch this, and it was actually really good. Like this might be my favorite pilot of all the DC Universe shows. We only have had a few so far, but this is like really solid. Like the best way to describe it is like this is probably the best they could have done with a Swamp Thing pilot. That's pretty high praise, but once you see it, you'll know it. Um, First off, one of the biggest things you'll notice right away is that this series does not directly focus on Alec Holland, at least for the pilot. We'll see as the show goes on, of course.
Yeah, Alec
For
Holland, who is the Swamp Thing in the comic books, if you don't know.
Exactly, and it kind of just goes. It focuses on him in some parts, but it's mostly Abby Arcane, played
Yeah,
by Crystal Reed.
she's the character that we intro to, we focus on, going into, because this is her story returning to her hometown, which she's been estranged from for a while, for many years it seems. So she's returning, and we're getting her point of view, where she runs into Alec Holland, who's playing, I guess, the B to the A of Crystal Reed's Abby Arcane, but there's more play there once you see, of course, because he's the Swamp Thing, and that's the name of the show. So
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's super interesting just focusing on her because we learn a lot about him and about that town through her point of view. As she grew up there, but she's also returning, so we get a lot. I think it benefits a lot from the story for I think for people who have no clue what it's about to just kind of like learn about it through her view. And she does have a really compelling story. Like they do set up quite a few things that make her like it justifies why she's the main character of the show. And also I will have to say that Crystal Reed is actually really good. I think she's known for few other shows.
yeah, she was on Gotham and Teen Wolf.
Yeah. Yeah,
She
she's on.
played the main role
Yeah,
in Teen Wolf for many years, and she was one of the Falcons on Gotham for a few seasons.
yeah. I remember her on Teen Wolf. She's fine on there, but she's really stands on her own here.
Very good.
She,
She's very good from the first scene, which is something a little different than you're probably expecting. Not to get into specifics, but the where we're introduced to her is different than you may think we may be, and it's very interesting, and she plays it very well. She plays a CDC doctor, so that's not a spoiler, but she plays the part. It's very believable. It's very well done for the most part. I mean, she was definitely the standout for me in this episode.
yeah, as well. She's obviously standout. She's kind of the main character, and she does have some really good scenes. We
Yeah,
can't.
once yeah
Obviously,
yeah
yeah.
there,
Obviously
yeah,
not gonna
yeah.
say
There's
it.
one scene in particular. Once you watch it, you'll know it's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And then we also have Alec Holland, played by Andy Bean, who's, of course, he's the B to the A to her A, but at the same time, he has a lot less than her, but he does have like
Yeah, but he,
a
he has
lot.
a charm to him that's very infectious.
Exactly.
Like once he's there, like you want to see more of him. And he's kind of an agitating character, but that's on purpose, and like you find out
Yeah, for
why.
sure. And then
But
you totally believe their chemistry, for sure.
oh yeah, they hit it off very quickly, and they go on this mission to try to figure out what's going on in the swamp. But it did happen fast, but it wasn't really a negative thing at all, because you believed what the one was saying to the other in terms of what they were trying to figure out, and like how they hit it off and how similar they are in many ways.
And you can also, say that's because of the script. I think it does a really good job of. I think for a pilot, it does a really good job of setting up the mystery, setting up our main characters, and does not go out of its way to kind of like astray from the main story. It starts setting things up. It solely focuses on her and this mystery, but at the same time, it gives you little teases, but it does it in a really good way. Like, I think it's a really tight script. Like, it's really just focused on her, Alec Holland, and this mystery. As I said, they give little teases, and from watching the trailers and knowing the characters who pop up, most of them are not even here. So that although they're going to be introduced, we're not even dealing with them. And I thought that was actually really good. But I guess you immediately invested into the story, into the main characters, and yeah, for sure. Something else you'll notice as soon as it opens is the budget. The production of this show is insane. Like, compared to Doom Patrol, Doom Patrol and Titans had a huge budget, of course, and the production on those shows are really good. But this is probably like the next level. This is like to me, in my opinion, this could go on HBO and would perfectly fine there. Just as I said from the opening, this has like movie level effects, a lot of practical effects that work really well. So Jackson, what do you think? Like, the effects, the VFX, all blended well?
I don't have any complaints about the VFX. There was a lot. There were probably 2 or 3 major scenes in which we see pretty solid VFX. Anything better than anything we've seen on the DC Universe app up to this point. Especially with there have been a few times, mostly in Doom Patrol, because they get a little out there with their CGI, where it doesn't work very well because obviously the budget's being spent elsewhere. They have some big name actors on that show. Costs a lot, big budgets. But in terms of this was just it was clean, it was crisp, it was very well done. Like you said, if this had been an HBO pilot, I don't think I would have been surprised at all. Obviously, that may cause problems down the road. Bloated budgets. They use a lot on the pilot. That's not it's not abnormal. That's something Game of Thrones did. It's something that a lot of shows do.
Yeah, that's true. You gotta assume like this, it'll calm down for the next few episodes. But it's just off the bat, the practical effects, the VFX, how it goes really seamless. The directing, Len Wiseman is directing the pilot, and he did a really good job.
Yeah, Len Wiseman, who you may not know, but if you do, not for something very positive. He was the guy behind most of the Underworld movies. He directed the first 2 and then produced the next 3. They did 5 of those things, Jesus. But He does very well for TV, though. He's directed the pilot for Sleepy Hollow, and I'm blanking on the second show. Another major show that just got picked back up on Netflix. But he takes this show and very much makes it his own. There's very much a stylistic feel. You can also very much feel James Wan in this show. There's 2 or 3 scenes that were like that's very James Wan-esque. That's things that he's his bread and butter. And he does it, and it works very well in this show in the style they used it in.
And of course, as you said, James Wan, there's a horror aspect to this. And you see it throughout. Like, it's gory, but it's not gory just to be gory. And it's really creative. Like, there's some, again, like as Jackson said, there's like 3 main sequences where it's not only creative, but it's actually thrilling. It's horror. And of course, with the VFX and the practical effects, it blends in seamlessly. And you really are like, okay, you really feel like you're actually seeing it. Because, look, I want to go into spoilers, but there's one scene like 3/4 away where it takes place in a hospital. And as soon as you see it, as soon as that happens, it's going to remind you of like The Thing. It's reminding you of like
very
a lot
much
of alien
so.
movies. But to me, it does it like seamlessly. It does it really well. The whole scene plays out incredibly well.
Yeah, and I don't want this to be just as good as this was. I don't want us to sit here and just praise it to the nines. There were a couple issues that we had. It wasn't perfect. I think it was definitely on the better end of the episodes of the shows that we've seen on here. Doom Patrol and Titans sort of fell off towards the end. A lot of the episodes weren't working for me. Whereas earlier in the season they worked really well, but this one does work very, very well. And again, it's early. I want to see the whole season. We have 10 episodes, right? Since they cut the last 3 following that production stop, which we'll get into probably as we continue to review the series later on, which will be noticeable. But a couple issues that I had. One, to start off with, a few of the side actors, specifically, I want to call this guy out just because he was so over the top. Was it Will Patton, who played Avery Sunderland, who's like a businessman in the town. He went for the Louisiana accent and tried a little too hard for me. He went full full like Popeye's chicken kind of. I'm going for it. I'm from Louisiana. This is Louisiana, and it was like tone it down a bit, bud. It was like tone it down.
That's like another thing. You don't actually believe that like any of these actors are from Louisiana. Like you don't
not
believe
the ones
main actress.
not the ones that they tell you are from Louisiana.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think maybe even the main character doesn't feel like it that she's from Louisiana. But I do think they do a good job of showing Louisiana itself, and they're using a lot of on-location sets, and then of course they built the entire swamp set. And it does feel like Louisiana per se, but like the actors themselves, as you say, Will Patton, is kind of forced, little cartoony for sure. It's probably like even out as the show goes along. This is the pilot, but yeah,
absolutely.
It was pretty.
I mean,
it was noticeable.
Listen, when an actor signs on for a show and he's told that it takes place in Louisiana, he's gonna do a Louisiana accent. He's a Louisiana businessman. That character's been done 100 different times. He's definitely going for that. The one thing is that his wife in the show, played by Virginia Madsen, she doesn't go for that as hard. Like it's more subtle. It's definitely more subtle.
She definitely does it more subtle.
And she has a great scene. She has a really good scene with Abby later in the show, later in the episode. And it's very easy to understand them. But if had that been her husband, I think I would have mentally checked out because of the way he was talking.
Yeah, honestly, for sure. But yeah, other than for complaint, it was you know what, it was pretty hard to find complaints. I was talking to Jackson just before recording this, and
we were trying to brainstorm because we didn't.
Yeah, because it's like it's really solid pilot. Like it does very few things wrong. Like it does everything right. I think it does all the things that you need a pilot to do. It does it right, which I think why it kind of like you can have gripes with it, as we just said.
Yeah, those are nitpicks though. Like
exactly.
We were literally pulling for things. We weren't. There wasn't things we could rattle off the top of our head. And I think one thing this show did really well that I'm sort of surprised at, because I mean, so far, especially with Doom Patrol, like the show leaned into the comic weirdness of the group, and it didn't really hold back its punches. In terms of this show, I don't know much about Swamp Thing. It's not something I've read or been familiar with, and everything from off the bat, I was like, I understand this. I know where they're going. I understand the character. As we get further into the line, like I'm sure I'll continue to understand. But they didn't spoon feed me, but they also didn't hit me over the head with things, so it worked well.
Yeah, for sure. You also have like a character like Andy Bean. He plays it really well and kind of does some of the explaining to the audience, how things work in this universe, and it's very well done. It's it's complicated per se, but they do it they say it in simple terms, and you completely get it, and it's actually pretty realistic. Like it's Swamp Thing. This is on DC Universe.
It's the most realistic show they've done.
Probably the most realistic.
And Titans is pretty realistic. Doom Patrol's out there. Like we'll continue to mention. They're not going to hide it from us, but it's very realistic, and I felt immersed into this town, even though some of the characters were a little out there. I was very interested in this town. Like they went out of their way to make sure we knew that the town itself is a character in the show. It's its own thing. It's its own little world where things happen, specific things. But I mean, I'm really excited from where they go from here. It was a very good pilot and a very good way to start the show.
Yeah, and as we said, we have little gripes, but in terms of a pilot, it does what you need. Everything that you needed it to do, it does it very well. Very few complaints. Once again, it might throw you off. This might throw you off that Abby, what's her name? Abby Arcane.
Right. But if you've been following the production notes of this show, which I know a lot of fans do, she was billed as the lead, she's the lead of the show. She was the first person cast, so I don't think it's that surprising. But as you're watching a Swamp Thing show, just make sure you go in and realize that it's not Swamp Thing isn't the person you're following, because that the same way in the Hulk movies, Bruce Banner's the lead, but Betty Ross always plays a major role because he's Hulk half the time. You have to have a human character to bounce off of.
For sure, and then once Swamp Thing's in the show, you need that human character. So yeah, for sure. I think overall, it's a really solid pilot. It's really everything that you could need. And after Doom Patrol, even if you like or dislike Doom Patrol, I think it's a good palate cleanser. It's totally different.
Yeah. Because going into this, I watched the finale of Doom Patrol at the same time, right before I watched the Swamp Thing pilot, and I was a little let down by the Doom Patrol finale. But this got me really excited for Swamp Thing as soon as I started watching this right after. So, it continues me into the show, into the DC universe, and they looks like they have at least another solid hit on their hands with this one.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be critically well received. I've talked to a few people who've seen it already, who are outside of the full circle area, and they all really love it. Like I've talked to a few, they don't have any complaints. Like it's similar to us, where it's like, well, it's kind of hard to find like a real hard complaint because I do think like if this wasn't on DCU, this is on HBO, and then everyone loves it. Like it's one of those mainstream type shows.
Yeah,
And this works really well.
Yeah, there's a certain stigma with DCU right now because people complaining about an app specifically for DC content, but throw that aside, like throw all the other nonsense, the in the lackluster ending to the Titan season and however you feel about the Doom Patrol season, just go into this fresh, and I think you'll be really surprised at how good of a show this is so far.
Yeah, and then you can tell they really cared about making this like the definitive Swamp Thing adaptation. This is not like, okay,
Absolutely.
maybe we'll make a movie,
yeah.
but no, this is like the definitive,
Yeah, no,
which
it's
is
no
something
joke.
I really
It's
appreciate.
not played. Nothing's played for jokes. Nothing's made fun of. It's a straight adaptation of like that character, and it's. I think it's if I wanted a Swamp Thing adaptation based on the little knowledge I had of the character, this is exactly what I would go for.
Yeah, it's all you can ask really. I think that's pretty much it.
I think we can wrap it up there. I mean,
I think that's the consensus is definitely watch it. Definitely
yeah, absolutely.
At least
absolutely.
at least the
give it a
pilot.
shot. Absolutely, give it a shot.
It's not for kids for sure. Like any of the DCU shows, to be fair.
Yeah, there is language, there is blood, there's gore. It's all the shows have had it. So don't if you didn't let them watch it before, don't let them watch it now.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, it's for sure watch it.
All right. Well, where can the people find you, Marcos?
You find me on fullcirclecinema.com, and I just wrote an article. I do some work there. Yeah, you can follow me at BusyGamer9 on Twitter, and that's really the only social media you need to follow.
Yeah, you can follow the page at Full Circle Cine. You can follow me at Jackson Hayes 67, and make sure to check back every week because we're planning to review the show every week through its 10-episode run, and then hopefully we'll get some more Titans this fall, and then we'll get Stargirl next year. So we'll continue those. So thank you for listening, and make sure to check back next week.